You want to start a new career. You want to speak up in a meeting. You want to share your art. But a quiet voice stops you. What will people think? What if they laugh? Here is a harsh but beautiful truth. Nobody is watching you. If fear of judgment is holding you back, this story will set you free. Stay with me until the end. Julian was an actor, and every night he prepared for the stage like a man preparing for battle. He stood in front of a mirror under a small yellow light. The room was quiet except for the soft sound of his breath and the dry brush moving across his skin. He painted his face slowly, carefully, trying to hide every flaw. A line near his mouth. Shadows under his eyes, a small scar on his chin. He looked at each part of himself as if it were a problem that needed to disappear. But the paint was not enough. Next to the mirror sat a wooden mask. It was old and beautifully made, but it was heavy. Too heavy. When Julian lifted it with both hands, he could already feel the pressure in his arms. When he tied it over his face, the weight pulled at his neck. The inside smelled like dust and old sweat. It pressed against his skin and made the air feel thin. Still, he wore it. He told himself it was necessary, because the mask was not for the play, it was for protection. Julian believed the people in the crowd were waiting for him to fail. He imagined their eyes moving over every detail. He imagined them noticing one wrong word, one awkward step, one moment of fear. In his mind, they would remember it all. They would carry his mistakes home with them. They would talk about him later. They would laugh. So he hid. He hid his real face under paint and wood. He hid his trembling hands in the folds of his costume. He hid his fear behind a strong voice that never felt natural. And every night, the same thing happened. As the moment grew closer, his chest became tight. His mouth went dry. His heart beat so hard, it felt like knocking from inside his body. Backstage, other actors stretched, whispered, and checked their lines. But Julian could barely hear them. He was trapped inside his own thoughts. What if I forget? What if they see fear in my eyes? What if one bad moment stays with me forever? Have you ever felt that? Have you ever changed your words, your clothes, your choices, not because they were wrong, but because you were afraid someone might judge them? Julian was not afraid of the stage. He was afraid of the audience in his head. That audience was cruel. It was always watching. It never blinked. It remembered everything. It gave no mercy. And because of that invisible crowd, even simple things became heavy. A step forward felt dangerous. A breath felt loud. Even standing still felt like a risk. Then the stage manager gave the signal. It was time. Julian walked toward the curtain with slow, stiff steps. The wooden boards beneath his feet gave a soft sound. The red curtain in front of him looked darker than usual, thick and serious like it was hiding a sentence he did not want to hear. On the other side, he imagined hundreds of people waiting in silence, ready to measure him. He placed one hand on the edge of the curtain. His palm was wet. His throat tightened. Then the curtain opened. A bright white light fell across the stage. Julian stepped forward, ready to face the judgment he had feared for so long. And then he looked up. The theater was empty. No faces. No critical eyes. No whispering mouths. Only rows and rows of empty seats, quiet under the light. Julian stood there without moving. The fear was still inside him, but now it had nowhere to go. It had been built for a crowd that was not there. And in that strange silence, he began to understand something that most people learn very late. Everyone is on their own stage. Everyone is adjusting their own mask. Everyone is worried about their own lines, their own mistakes, their own image. The crowd he feared was real only in his mind. And maybe yours is too. My friend, this story is about you. Not because you are an actor on a stage, but because you carry something very similar every day. Your mask may not be made of wood, but you still feel its weight. It shows up in small moments. When you write something online, then read it again and again before posting, and finally, delete it. When you want to say an idea in a meeting, but stay quiet because your voice might sound wrong. When you choose clothes, not because you like them, but because they feel safe. This is your mask. And most of the time, you don't even notice you are wearing it. Let me ask you something. Do you remember what your friend wore last Tuesday? Probably not. Do you remember a small mistake someone made last week? Most likely no, because your mind is busy. You are thinking about your own problems, your own plans, your own worries. And everyone else is the same. But here is where it gets interesting. You believe people are watching you closely. At the same time, they believe people are watching them, so everyone is acting for an audience that does not exist. This is why the mask feels so heavy. Not because people are judging you all the time, but because you are trying to protect yourself from a judgment that is mostly imagined. Let's look at a simple moment. Someone posts a photo online. After a few minutes, one comment appears. It is not even very negative, just a little cold, a little unclear. That person reads it once, then again. Their mind starts building a story. Maybe people don't like it. Maybe I look strange. Maybe I should remove it. And after a short time, they delete the post. Now look at another moment. Someone else shares something similar. They also see a strange comment. They pause. They feel a small discomfort. But then they continue their day. They go make coffee. They answer a message. They forget about it. Because deep down, they understand something simple. People scroll. People move on. People forget. The difference is not confidence. The difference is what they believe about the audience. One person believes the audience is watching closely, the other understands the audience is distracted. So here is the quiet shift. You don't need to explain yourself so much. You don't need to defend every choice. You don't need to prepare perfect words for every small moment. Because people are not collecting your mistakes. They are living their own lives. What would change for you if you truly believed that? Would you speak a little sooner? Would you share something you've been hiding? Would you try something new, even if it feels uncomfortable? Take a moment and feel that question, not in your head, in your body. Because the mask becomes lighter the moment you stop feeding the invisible audience. And once it becomes lighter, you can finally start moving freely. The night Julian saw the empty seats, something inside him shifted, not all at once, but enough. The mask was still on his face. The fear was still in his chest, but now there was a small question in his mind. If no one is really watching, what happens if I just begin? He did not feel ready. His hands were still unsteady. His breath was still tight, but he took one step forward anyway. And that step felt different, not strong, not confident, but honest. Have you ever waited to feel ready before doing something? Before speaking, before starting, before showing your work? Most people wait. They tell themselves, I will do it when I feel confident. But confidence is strange. It does not come first. It comes after. Julian did not remove the mask that night. He did not suddenly become fearless. But he spoke his first line. His voice was not perfect. It was a little rough, a little uneven. But it was real. And nothing bad happened. No laughter, no judgment, only silence and space. So he continued, line by line, step by step. Each moment felt a little easier than the last, not because fear disappeared, but because action gave it less power. Let me ask you something. What are you waiting to feel ready for? Is it a conversation? A decision? A new path? Now imagine this. You start before you feel ready. Your voice shakes a little. You make a small mistake. Maybe your words are not perfect, but you finish. And after that moment, something changes. You realize the fear was louder than the reality. This is how confidence is built, not in your thoughts, but in your actions. Small, imperfect, real actions. One person waits for the fear to go away, so they stay still. Another person moves while the fear is still there. The second person grows, not because they are braver, but because they are moving. So here is a simple idea you can carry with you. You don't need to remove the fear. You just need to move with it. Let it walk beside you. Let your voice shake if it needs to. Let your first step be messy, because the audience you fear is not really there. And the only thing that is real is the step you take next. After that night, Julian returned to the stage again. Same place, same lights, same quiet room, but something inside him was no longer the same. He still held the mask in his hands before the show. He looked at it for a long moment. He could feel its weight without even wearing it. And for the first time, he asked himself a different question. Who am I doing this for? Not for the audience. Because there was no audience. Not for approval. Because approval was never guaranteed. So slowly, he put the mask down. The air felt different on his skin. Cool, light, honest. When he stepped onto the stage that night, his face was visible. Not perfect, not hidden, just real. And something unexpected happened. Nothing, no shock, no reaction, no sudden change in the world. Because the world was never focused on him the way he imagined. And in that quiet moment, Julian understood the final truth. Freedom does not come when people stop judging you. Freedom comes when their judgment stops controlling you. Let me ask you one last question. If you were the only one truly watching your life, what would you change? Would you speak more honestly? Would you try something you've been delaying? Would you stop hiding parts of yourself that were never wrong? This is not about becoming fearless. It is about becoming honest. Because at the end of the day, you are the one who lives with your choices, not the imagined crowd, not the passing opinions, just you. So maybe the real shift is simple. Live in a way that you can respect, even in a quiet room, even when no one is looking, especially then. And if something in this story stayed with you, take a small step today. Not a perfect one, just a real one. Then come back and tell me, what is one thing you will do, even if it feels uncomfortable? Write it in the comments. Or share this with someone who is still carrying a heavy mask. And if you want more stories like this, you can stay here with me. We'll walk through them, one step at a time.